When did the popular kid's life fall apart in a few seconds? Him and a kid I've known since about first grade drove about 8 to 9 hours to visit a friend who had moved away at the time and was feeling depressed. They were going to surprise him and he called saying he found a way to get a plane ticket back to them where they all three were friends originally while they were already 14 hours deep in a road trip. So they turned around and when they were about 45 minutes from home, they got into a bad accident and he died on the scene. The kid I knew from first grade watched his best friend bleed out next to him upside down in his car. He had long hair and the paramedics thought he was a female upon arrival and first grade friend said he was desperately trying to tell them he was a boy and his name and to call his family to tell them what happened. He was pronounced dead before the ambulance even took off. First grade friend came back to school after a little under 2 months with a 16-inch long and about 1-inch wide scar all the way up the back of his arm. They were in a band together and played in the school's band. Hallways were bleak for months. Probably the rest of the year honestly. He sat with us at lunch and tried to be normal, but we all knew he wasn't the same. They were good people, and even though only one of them died, it was like they both left that day because he was never the same. I don't even think he makes music anymore. I knew them both for almost 10 years when it happened, and it was the first time somebody I knew that was my age had died, and it was very sobering. You know nobody is immortal, but you don't expect somebody to be ripped from existence so quickly. Developed a conscience midway through college after gaining 50 pounds and losing his starting QB spot. Checked into rehab for alcoholism and made amends with everyone he had ever bullied, which was basically everyone in our high school. I ran into him in my hometown last year and we had a nice chat. People can change. Unfortunately, a cheerleader from my school had a four-wheeling accident that left her in an almost vegetative state. Through years and years of hard work on her part, she's been able to gain a little more independence. However, she'll never be exactly the same as she was before the accident. It's really sad and crazy how quickly your life can change from an accident. I graduated in 95 feet and shortly after, my mom asked if I knew this girl. I said yes. She showed me the obituaries. Apparently she was a butt-ender on a four-wheeler and the driver was speeding and made a sharp turn which resulted in her coming off the bike and straight into a tree. Died instantly. And that was a big time reality hit to me. Fresh out of school and a girl I knew died. I found a former Gilbert kind of friend from high school's grave. It was after my grandma died and she happened to be buried nearby. He was apparently in a car wreck and butted away when we were both 26 years old. Went out drinking on a Saturday night with a friend of his. He drove home and slammed into a brick wall at 40 miles per hour, if I remember that correctly. His friend in the passenger seat barely survived, but he died on impact. The captain of the football team underwent surgery his senior year. I was 13 on the middle school team. His younger brother and I were very close, so I was around him a lot. I looked up to him like an older brother. He drove me to early practices, was very smart, dated a pretty cheerleader, not a mean bone in his body. He had it all. For a 13-year-old, he was my hero. After his surgery he got hooked on painkillers. He went from painkillers to heroin. He was arrested multiple times for theft and drug possession. This went on for years. I would always ask my friend from middle school how he was doing. It never got better. He died last year. Drugs suck. I miss my hero. Edit. Typo. Also, thank you for all your support on this comment. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction to anything, please ask for help from someone. My PMs are always open as well. Oh man, this breaks my heart. Edit. If you can handle it. The Pharmacist on Netflix is about one guy's battle against the opioid crisis. It's a heavy hitter but really good. And about situations like this. Opiates suck because they are too good. I really feel like only a tiny fraction of the population would be able to avoid opiate addiction if they were given a month-long script. The only reason I'm personally not one is because my connection made the brave decision to get help, and I wasn't willing to drive to dangerous places to get a bag. He started doing heavy drugs and fist fought the vice principal. Parents kicked him out at 18. Haven't heard much since. Did he win? Duck no. kid was a wrestling star, but the vice principal was a Marine Reserve who still thought himself an active Marine. Not to mention like twice his size. 3 popular kids went swimming in a quarry. Only 2 came out. It sucks because the one that died was popular for all the right reasons. He was a genuinely good dude. I was the weird kid, but his locker was right next to mine, and he was friendly every single day to every single person. Something similar like this happened recently to a few guys that go to my old high school. It was like 1 AM. They went swimming in the local river that goes through town, and one of the guys drowned. He was nice and friendly, but not popular since it was a really big school. His friends allegedly planned his death, but there were no punishments for them. Was there reasonable suspicion of them planning his death, or was it just rumor? I don't know, but his life really fell apart, because it turns out his home life was terrible all along. But it definitely shifted how people looked at him. And I went to a small school, so there weren't too many divisions between people when you only have 40 something kids in a grade. Popular is kind of relative. But a kid's mom decided to leave their husband. The kid's stepdad, who was known to faculty and was considered a good guy, stopped by the school to deliver something to his stepson. Cool. The secretary gave him a bud to drop it off at the stepson's school, but rather than call him down to the office, the stepdad actually had a gun and had no idea where the stepson was during that period, so was roaming the halls. Luckily, a friend of the stepson, who knew what an abusive, dangerous guy the stepdad was, happened to be in the office and alerted everyone. We all went on lockdown. The police came. We were stuck for a couple of hours as they swept the school after arresting the guy. Then, it came out that the kid had been abused for the entire time his mom had been married to the guy, and she only was leaving him after he started hitting her. It was a whole thing, and while everyone had pretty much always liked the kid, he suddenly just had everyone feeling sorry for him. Teachers let him go back and redo assignments to boost his grade. People gave him stuff to start over. He just kind of got really closed off and stopped joking around and only hung out with like 3 people after that. He was known as the abused kid with a stepdad who was going to shoot up a school, and that's hard to get over. I know better than some that it's best to not pity those trying to get better. It doesn't help with them moving on. In fact, after my dad split with his 3rd girlfriend, he had a relationship standard problem or something. Everyone was feeling sorry for me, even though it didn't faze me. I actually thought it was pretty normal, so after everyone was saying stuff like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, and if you need anything, I'm here for ya," which made me feel bad, as if I'm just using their kindness without needing it. Then I met this girl. She did know all about the incident, and I, being my rude self, told her to move out my way since she was standing in my way. Unlike everyone else, she just ignored me. When I told her again, she said in a mocking voice, "If you really want me to move, you should say please. Just because you had something sucky happen to you doesn't mean you get special treatment." I have never forgotten these words. We became best friends and nothing more. So to make a long story short, it's better to let others get back to how things are. Gotta be real with you. We became best friends and nothing more says 1000 words. No one considered it to be a relationship starter. Still, it was a great response. He was an only child, and his dad had died when he was 2. Was really happy-go-lucky, and he was popular because he was outgoing, supportive, warm and kind to everybody without fail. And although he was friends with the kind of kids who bullied people, he was the first person to tell them to knock that shit off if he saw it. When we were 16, his mum, who was one of the nicest ladies I ever met in our small town, was crushed to death by a semi-trailer that drifted into her lane. He dropped out of school. He stopped talking to anybody, and he refused to let anyone visit him. I have no idea what became of him. Sorry, Jay. I hope your life got better. Stuff like this makes me cry. That got me. Hard to imagine the pain. There was this kid that I went to high school with almost 20 years ago who was 2 grades ahead of me. Seemed like the popular kid. He had a hot GF. He was really funny, decent at sports, and didn't seem to have issues. Anyways, turned out one day his mom came home to him laying in the basement with a bullet wound in his head. I was told he used a shotgun to kill himself, but loaded it birdshot. Because of this he didn't die. I now see him walking around town, and he can't speak anymore and walks as if he had a stroke. One side of his body doesn't work properly. Really sad, and that's all I can think about anytime I drive around and see him walking. You never know what people actually feel inside. You might wish you could be someone else because everything seems so perfect, but rarely is that ever the case. My brother was the popular kid in school. He was loved by everyone, and most of the people I graduated with know him, but since we had different last names didn't know we were related until I told them. He started pills in high school, then coke, then heroin. In and out of jail. Forced into rehab instead of serving jail time. Lived in our mom's basement until he was 30. He finally moved out, but my parents pay his rent. Has a year sober now though. Sounds like my best friend. He was pretty much our grade's popular kid for the first 2 years of high school. Then we found out he was doing drugs being our back. He got sent to rehab for 6 months. Came back, then got sent off again. Ended up graduating with us, but by senior year most people didn't want to do with him besides me and his other really close friends. He died a couple months after graduating from a heroin relapse. His sister told me it was fentanyl. But who really knows? Miss him every day, since he was like my brother. I thought I'd have him as my friend for life. Guy on the football team sent a girl's nudes of the entire football team and a good portion of people in my grade. Got arrested during club, but I haven't seen him since. Was the girl under 18? Distribution of child movie graffiti? Yeah. We were in middle school. He got made fun of because he wanted to wait to have sex with his new GF. Popular girl, so he caved and did it. Teen pregnancy. I think the term peer pressure gets thrown around a lot like it's some everyday thing you can shrug off. And it very well can be. But then there's cases like this where it can permanently affect or destroy someone's life or reputation. Peer pressure needs to be taken more seriously. This guy I used to hang out with in elementary school was pretty overweight, but I'd had the biggest crush on him. I lost track of him for a few years, but in high school he came back and had lost all the weight. He was pretty athletic and was generally well liked. I didn't talk to him, but the guy seemed decent. I guess he liked driving like an idiot. The year after he graduated he wrapped his car around a pole. They had to use the jaws of life to pull him out of his car, but it was too late. Had died on impact. There had been multiple reports that night of people calling the cops to complain about his reckless driving around town. I just remember that chubby little boy I used to spend recess with every day. This makes me think of a girl I knew in elementary school. I was never a popular kid. In fact, I was kind of the opposite. I was constantly bullied. There was this girl who would run up to me and say you/Hegeman I love you, giggle and run away. I had pretty low self-esteem because I was always picked on, so I just assumed she was picking on me by making fun of the fact that I didn't have a girlfriend or any prospects for that matter. In hindsight, I often wonder if I wasn't just being thick. I mean, after all, we hung out the whole week during our 8th grade graduation trip. It is what it is, I guess, but I sometimes think about that girl and wonder what she's doing now. Edit. Updated words and improved spellings for faster comprehension times. Lowered required reading skills. Minor bug fixes. When he hit and killed a state trooper on the freeway while the trooper was out of his car trying to remove debris from the road. Holy duck. That's such a shitty way to immediately duck your life up forever. You ruin someone's family, your own. Have to live with that guilt all because you made a mistake in a split second by accident. No one wins. These types of things are so awful, but I really do feel bad for the guy. Unless he was drunk. Duck drunk drivers. Or on his cell phone. I'm not sure I would call him the popular kid, but in some circles he was. He was a bit of an arrogant, but in my opinion, but had money and liked to spread it around. His dad was a wealth manager. Lots of friends/family/community members were clients. A few years after high school it came out that dad had embezzled millions. Their entire wealth was stolen from friends and family. This rocked him hard. Dad went to jail and he changed his name and totally became a different person. I saw him after that and barely recognized him. His personality and even his posture was different. I felt really bad for him. I ended up having a really good talk with him and I can only imagine what he has gone through. Edit. Wow. Lots of people have asked for details on location and was it so and so, which tells me this has clearly happened before. I won't give any more details other than it wasn't in the US. Similar thing happened to my girlfriend. Her dad ran an insurance firm with his dad and he started a fake life insurance company within that legitimate insurance company and stole millions from a close-knit community. When people tried to cash out due to, death, evidence came to light and he was imprisoned. She's told me multiple times how much people like you in her life made a difference. Good on you for being an upstanding person and reaching out. His parents divorced and he started acting out. He went from good grades and clubs to failing in drugs. Shut sounds like me, except I wasn't popular. Reddit. My most upvoted comment is about my life falling apart in high school. Lol, love you Reddit, have a blessed day. Same except the clubs. I actually ran into one of the super popular kids at the local bar when I came home from college. She would never give me the time of day in high school and I for sure thought she didn't even know I existed. But she approached me at the bar, super drunk, and said, "Hey, didn't I go to high school with you?" She then proceeded to tell me she wished she had been nicer to more people in high school and that she has no idea what she's doing with her life. Honestly feels good to know that she's thought about how she treated people back then. Not sure if that's the norm or just a weird occasion. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you want more videos don't forget to like and subscribe. You are helping me a lot. Thanks again.